No, Pat has organized this event, and I mean, this was a brainchild back, what, 5 or 6 months ago. And we had to cancel it once, unfortunately, but we're really glad you're all here. So, Pat.
I am glad to see you all here. It's a great looking crowd, and thank you for coming this morning. At this point in the program, after we do Happy Dollars and the Joker Draw and our opening rituals, we normally have the program, but you are the program this morning, and we'll hear from various ones of you. But one of the things we thought it would be nice to do, many of us feel really attached to the Breakfast Rotary Club. And so I asked a few people if they would talk to us for a couple of minutes about why it's important to them, why they're in this club, and what's going on with them and the club. And the first person I'm going to call up to speak is Emily Jernigan.
I'm not sure why you think Breakfast Rotary is special to me, Pat. I am a member of this club. I sort of identify myself as one of the least likely people to be in Rotary. I have spent most of my adult life as a volunteer. I have started 2 businesses, very small businesses, but most of my life I spent in service to the community and doing work that I love. And I am so fortunate to have been able to do that. About in 2005, I was working with the UT Arboretum Society, and we came up with a program of it was a public outreach program, trying to get people to be more aware of the Arboretum. And part of that outreach was to make presentations to the Rotary clubs. And my husband and I went with Tom Rowe and Ann and Lou Arnold to the Breakfast Rotary Club. And we made this presentation. At the time, Fred Berry was president of this club. And I had known Fred for a long time. And he came up to me after the meeting and said, "Would you like to join Rotary?" Well, that was one of the most unlikely questions that anyone had ever asked me. And I said, sure, why not? And so I went to a couple of meetings, and then on May 5th, Pat Postma and I were inducted into this club on the same day. And I had not known Pat before then, and she didn't know me, but we have forged what is not really a friendship, it's a family. She and Charlie and I do so many things together, community things, other things. And what Rotary has given to me, among other things, is increased opportunities for community service. It has helped with so many different projects. I just see the energy in this club, the friendships that have developed among all kinds of club members, people that we wouldn't run into under other circumstances. And I think Rotary is just a powerful force for good in the community, and it's a way that we connect. Flatwater Tales is an outgrowth of Breakfast Rotary and the other 2 Rotary clubs. If you're thinking about joining a Rotary club, don't think of it as a have-to kind of place. It's a want-to kind of place. And there's just so much friendship here. And I just am very grateful for the opportunities that I've had through this Rotary Club to give back. Thank you.
I'm glad Emily mentioned the fact that we were inducted together, and she showed her colors that first day. I was in the club. The club president asked me if I would be in charge of what's called the mystery dinner. And I had attended some as a guest in the past before Herman died. And she said, your husband Herman used to say, the only time you can say no in Rotary is when somebody asks you to join. And after that, the answer is always yes. Well, Emily heard me being asked to do the mystery dinner, and she stepped up and said, I'd like to help you with that. Is that okay? And I think that's the spirit of a lot of people. If there's a need, we find a way to do something about that. Now, I have an assignment for each table here. And at the end, and I'll have to watch the clock. We'll do as much of this as we can. But I want you to talk at your table about each of the members, not the guests. The topic for you to talk about is to discover something about one of the people at that table that nobody else is likely to know. This might be a secret hobby you have. It might be something you did as a kid. It might be a wild adventure, but we're going to ask our guests to stand up one by one and tell what that thing is, that surprise thing. And then the rest of you will stand up and we'll have a club vote on who they think that surprise thing belongs to. Is that clear? Do you understand yours? Okay, so we'll talk among each table, and our guests and hosts will be part of the conversation. But those of you who are members, be thinking about some aspect of you that nobody is likely to know about, because we're going to try to identify who that belongs to at your table. All right, you can go. All right, are you ready? Before we stand up and do this, I want to ask Tony Wright to come up. Tony is our president this year, and those of us who are on the board with him have been amazed at what his heart and soul into this job and into this club. So I asked Tony to come, as Emily did, and tell us why he's in Rotary and why it's important to him.
Okay. It's actually interesting when I think back. My first exposure to Rotary was when I was in high school. And they would pick somebody from high school, like a junior or senior, to go to the local Rotary Club in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. So I'm sure something about that sort of clicked with me. But my story is a little different than some, because I was actually in this club somewhere in the 90s, and my brain is not working so much about age and stuff, right? But I had to drop off for a while. And in 2013, some of you know I have a golf business. That's not a plug, whatever. I had written a small book, and Dub Schultz, who many of you know, kept going to me and saying, why don't you come and talk to our club about your book and how you did it and all that stuff. But I thought, well, that'd be neat. And my absolute remembrance of that day, well, before that day, I've been thinking, you know, I'm semi-retired. I need to find something to do in the community, something to give back. And I stood up and I started my presentation. I looked out and I said, there's all my friends. There's all these people that I've known forever, and they're here and they want to be part of this. And so I got back in. You know, I rejoined the club, and I've been involved in a lot of different activities besides being president, most particularly the literacy lunch, which has been an amazing thing. I was Rooster for a year and all those kind of things. So there are so many opportunities to serve in a great way that makes you feel good by being in Rotary, and so many opportunities, as Pat talked about, to be connected with good people and good friends.
All right, I will call out the speaker, the guest at each table, to tell us a funny tidbit. But before they do that, I would like to have the guests give us 2 or 3 sentences background so you all know who they are and how they would fit in with us. And Elisa, are you willing to stand up and be counted here? Yeah. Allison, it's Allison. Let's get the names right to begin. Okay. And speak loudly. All right, are you ready to tell us the funny story at your table and let us figure out who? Pardon? Oh, okay, and I couldn't hear it. Sorry about that. All right, did the rest of you hear the story? All right, will everybody at that table stand up? All right, and I'm going to ask you to vote on who you think that story came from. For instance, if you think that was Joe McGrory's story, raise your hand. Okay. If you think that was Lynn Cardwell's story, raise your hand. No. If you think that was Stephen Barnes' story, raise your hand. Okay. All right. If you think that was Tom Laker's story, raise your hand. That's kind of a tie. John, is that John Roberts? That, all right. I really think that was pretty close, but it looked like Stephen Barnes. Stephen, was that your story? Oh, Norman, Bailey Norman. All right, we got 4 to 5 for several people. Will the guilty party stand up? All right. All right, let's see. Laurel Patrick, would you stand up and tell us a few things about yourself?
My name's Laurel Patrick. I don't really feel like a guest anymore. I think my 3rd time here in the last 2 months. Yeah, so I have a small here over here. We have a home building construction company. My background is engineering and know so many people. And I thought how neat it was to see people, good friends, good people. From here, that's how I associate with the circle I've run and things that I do. I do enjoy being there. I've done it before, but I'm here. Kat and Emily are amazing. So it has to be here. So thank you. At our table, we have a member who has a birthday.
All right. Stand up, everybody. Everybody who thinks it's Pete Peterson's birthday, raise your hand. Everybody who thinks it's Ellen Smith's birthday, raise your hand. Okay. Everybody who thinks it's Charlotte's birthday, raise your hand. That looks pretty definitive. Is it Sue Burns' birthday? Raise your hand. All right. Charlotte, fess up. Is it your birthday? Oh, Emily, is it your birthday? I'm going back to Charlotte. Is it your birthday, Charlotte? Okay, we voted wrong. Will the guilty birthday person stand up? Yay! Matt Tucker and John Glowinka. Which table are you at? Okay.
Someone at a table while distracted on his train traveling from Germany to Austria. A little distracted, both the distracted.
Okay. All right. Will the people at this table stand up? Everybody who thinks that story was Chris Osborne's story, raise your hand. Oh, everybody who thinks that's Sam Massine's story, raise your hand. Good pit. And everybody who thinks that's John Glowinka's story, raise your hand. Okay, we had a close tie there. Will the owner of the story stand back up? All right, I understand that we have someone on Zoom who's got a story to tell. Let's hear it.
Yes, we do. As a teenager, this individual stayed up all night birthing pigs.
Stayed up all night, what?
Giving birth to pigs, little piglets.
But we have an awful lot of people to vote on. Let's play 20 questions. Was this person a male or a female?
Male.
A male, okay. Now, how many participants do we have on Zoom?
We have 6.
Okay, Kelly, James Wilson, and we know it's a male. Is Jim Rushton there? All right, everybody who thinks it's Jim Rushton, raise your hand. No one. All right. Is it Ray Smith? No? Okay.
No.
Is it Kelly Tellison? Okay. Who else is up there? James Wilson. Is that James Wilson?
No.
Okay, that's pretty. Have we got all the males?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you've missed one.
And that'll be the one. Who did we miss? I'm seeing all. I don't see all the names, I guess. All right, let us have the guilty party confess. Who is it?
I'm trying. There, he held his hand up. Wayne held his hand up.
Okay, Wayne Holberg. Who usually sits back there.
Thanks for including us.
From here, oh, here in the room. Oh, okay. So you're saying get the people in the room to come up here, or it's all right. So we have a table back there with Lydia Burke and Laura Hoffman. And I hope you appreciate the fact that we have Laura and Laurel and Laura as 3 of our guests today. And we have Davida Hammond and Laura Hammond, who don't, Davida has a D on her name and Laura doesn't. So we got some, come up, Laura, and talk to us.
Hi, I'm Laura Hoffman, and I'm the program director for chemical engineering technology at Roane State. Originally, I'm from New Jersey and came to East Tennessee in the early 80s and then promptly left a few years later. And I've lived lots of places, but East Tennessee is the only place I've come back to because I really love it here and love the people here. So at our table, one of our people has actually, when he was in school, changed schools 35 times. So you can imagine between kindergarten and senior year, changing 35 times. Sometimes going back to the same school, but 35 times switching. So
let's have that table stand up. All right. Everybody who thinks that's Ray Garrett. Okay. Everybody who thinks it's Alan Libby. So far. Everybody who thinks that's Lydia Burke. Pete Peterson's not at that table. Who's behind him? Okay. And say your name again. Tony Garden. Was that Tony Garden who changed schools 35 times? Okay. I think we got the most votes. Alan Libby? Yeah. All right. Is that correct? That's true. Wow. All right. I'm going to let Davida Hammonds come up. Hammond and tell, or Laura. Yes.
So I met a lot of you guys last week, and it's good to be back. And I'm like Tony, I look around. Davida said, you know everybody in the room, and if I don't, I know grandkids, or I babysat for your kids or something like that. So yes, it is sort of true. So I grew up in Oak Ridge, was gone 20 years and came back, and yes, the whole Martha's daughter thing. So somebody at our table has a deep like for trains, not only has model trains, but has ridden probably 20,000 miles on trains. And so that was the story that we picked. And actually, it was sort of a table consensus in all honesty.
All right, table members, stand up. We have John Reed, we have Martin Grosbeck, we have Judy Gray, we have Davida. Is that it at that table? Let's vote and see who thinks John Reed has traveled 20,000 miles on trains. Okay, Martin Grosbeck. Uh-huh. Davida. Judy Gray. All right, Martin, are you the guilty party? Great. All right, 2 more tables to go. Lisa, will you come up and tell us a little bit about yourself and the story at your table?
Good morning. My name is Lisa Eckhoff, and I work down the street at the Oak Ridge Civic Music Association as the executive director there. I just started my 4th year, and I came out here from, well, I came back to Tennessee. Somebody else said they came back to Tennessee. I went home to Kansas for a few years, and my husband and I could not stay there. So we came back here to East Tennessee where we live. All right, the story at our table, this table here in the front, was about 2 siblings who the older one had a fancy sports car. The younger one was a much more practical and basic car. These 2 siblings arrived just coincidentally at the same gas station at the same time to fill up their tanks. And when the one sibling with the fancy car went in to pay for the gasoline, the other sibling had a key to the other sibling's car and took that car and sped off in the fancy sports car and left a simple car for the sibling.
All right, will the people at that table stand up? Who thinks this was David Coffey's story? Okay. Who thinks this was Mary Lou Auxier's story? Who thinks this was Dan Robbins' story? Okay, that's sort of a tie. Who thinks this was Mike Coffey's story? Ah. And who thinks it was Lou Dunlap's story? Okay. Who thinks it was Lisa Eckhoff's story? Well, you're all wrong. It was Lisa. Yeah, I stole your car. Okay. Let's see. All right, we have. Who's at that table? Yes. Okay. Please stand up and come to the mic. Yeah. Steve Gordon.
Steve Gordon, yes. Let's see, a little bit about me. I actually have had 2 careers. I joined the Air Force out of college and served 21 years. And while I was in the Air Force, I was a project manager and I hired Oak Ridge National Lab to do some work and got a job here when I retired. So both of them about 20 years. And I happen to be married to the best elementary school teacher on the planet, just as an aside. Let's see, okay, in our table, we actually have 2 amazing things. So we'll do a stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. The first one is, one of us rode a pig at 8 years old. So.
Stand up. All right. Was this Jana Brayton? Everybody raise your hand if it was Jana Brayton. Okay. Brenda Thornburg, raise your hand. Okay, let's see. She's got more than Jana. How about Dick Davis? Was it Dick Davis? No. Dean Cheatham? Mike Morris? Guilty party. Louise Mixon? Oh, that's a tie. Louise, did you ride a pig? Hi.
Okay, the second amazing thing is that one of the people at our table had chicken with Bill Clinton.
Okay, is there a Democrat looking person over there? Would that be Dick Davis? Okay, would that be Brenda Thornburg? Would that be Dean Cheatham? Sort of sprinkled out here. Would that be Mike Morris? Louise, did you do that? Janet Brayton, are you the one who had chicken with Bill Clinton? No. All right. Who is the guilty party for having chicken? Dean. Okay. Have we covered all the tables? I think we have. I haven't left out a table, have I? All right. Well, this has been kind of fun, and it's a weird way to get to know people. I just wanted to ask Brenda Thornburg to come up before we go through our closing, because she's been very active in various ways in Rotary, and I'm interested to hear why she's in Rotary and what it means to her.
Okay, I looked up this morning and realized I've been a Rotarian almost 16 years, and that's hard to believe. When I started, I was invited here by somebody by the name of Kay Hilliard. She ran a staffing agency, and I was an executive at the lab and at my lab in Knoxville, and I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I've been talking to Laura, twisting her arm a little bit. I know Laurel Patrick from Oak Ridge Nursery School Board. It was probably the most insane thing to agree to become a Rotarian. When I was invited here, I didn't know a single person in the room. I was a mom of preschoolers. I was involved on the board at the nursery school, and I didn't even remember what Rotary was, although I had a little bit of an Interact experience in high school. They never made the connection. So whatever possessed me, I said yes, because I had a husband who could stay up with the kids in the mornings. And so with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, joining Rotary, being up this early, was pretty grueling. But I have to look back and say, best decision I ever made in my life. I have met so many wonderful people. I've gotten involved. I found years later that my mentor, Dr. Galbraith, was a polio survivor. He never would talk about it. He was embarrassed. I thought he had a club foot. He had post-polio syndrome. It gave me an opportunity as a way to thank him for his mentorship to get involved in polio. I became a Polio Plus chair, traveled the state of Tennessee to over 40 clubs, met people, went to India, traipsed the slums, giving drops, drug my kids to Sydney where they packed food bags for Aborigine children and met people. It's been an amazing journey. And what I want to encourage any prospective members or even members now who are members, a few times I was overwhelmed. And when Tom was sick, I thought of quitting. And I almost quit before I was asked to be rooster by Tony, and Karen talked and politicked with me long distance from Georgia to talk me into it. I'm so glad I didn't, because the support structure, not only do you give back to the community in any way that you can. I was a CASA volunteer when I was single before I had kids, and I missed that. And I joined because I wanted to give back. I wanted to do something. I got involved with Interact as a sponsor at Robertsville when my kids went to Jefferson, and they thought that was blasphemy. But it gives you opportunities where you can be as involved or as uninvolved as you want. You don't have to come and do everything. You don't have to jump in with both feet, although people are going to ask you to do stuff. But what I can say is, if you're looking for a way to meet wonderful people, to build a support structure, to give back, to make a difference in whatever little or big way you want to, I cannot recommend a better group than Oak Ridge Breakfast Rotary Club. It has my heart. And on hard mornings like this morning, when I'm trying to get Connor up to get to Run State and Clinton by 7:30, you know, it can be a challenge. But once you get here and you get involved and you see the friends you love that are there for support for you, and you're able to go do those activities, whether it's cleaning up the lake or going to Interact or making a difference in a kid's life who years later sees you and calls you Mrs. Polio because they remember you from Interact. Just please consider it. Please extend invitations to members who you think might be too busy, because you never know how they want to use their time and talents. So I would encourage you to consider it. That this is a wonderful club, and I love every one of you, and I can't imagine not being a Rotarian.
The invitation we sent to our prospective members and guests this morning said, Oak Ridge Breakfast Rotary Club makes a difference. It makes a difference in your life. It makes a difference in your community, and it makes a difference in the world. And I think those of us who belong to a few years understand that and believe that. I'm particularly community oriented, but there are others who've had some very important global connections for our club. So I want to invite you to join us. You've got a booklet that tells you a little more detail about the club and how it operates. And I thank you for being here. It's important for our community that we get people out there and do work. And it's important to have this body of friends. And I hope that you'll consider being a part of us. All right, who's next, honey?
I've always had a little bit different view of the words make a difference. And let me just share that with you. We are always making a difference somehow. But we get to choose how we do that. And we have a great opportunity in this club to do those kind of things. As Pat said, she worked so hard, and Emily and Lucky, right? I'm trying to remember who else worked on creating the membership booklet. I hope you take a look at it. As we said, we welcome you here because we think you're special. That's why we hope you at least consider joining. So